accessibility in the world of corporate and government contracting. It's not just a show, it's a movement. So get ready for another dynamic journey as we wake up the world to a new era of opportunities and empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, President Larry Ives.
Good morning.
Larry,
Welcome to the Wake Up
good
Show
morning, everyone.
Chicago.
Larry, we can't hear you. You're muted for some reason. But I'm going to welcome everybody to the Wake Up Show until I hear your voice, Dr. Capitone Larry D. Ivory of the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. You are listening, watching, and witnessing the Wake Up Show Chicago, powered by the Wind Creek Casino Southland. I just want to say good morning to everyone. How was your week? I hope it was fabulous because we have always had a fabulous week here at the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, which is known for empowering black businesses, advocating for change, access to capital, and contracts. Each and every Saturday morning here at 9 a.m., we're coming to you live right here on WVON 1690. I am LaDonna Ray, the co-host to Dr. Larry Ivory. Larry, did you try your vocals again?
I tried it again, but I can
Yeah,
hear
we're
me.
not hearing you. Go ahead and call the number. You still have it? All right, cool beans. He's going to call in. But yeah, like I said, we're here each and every Saturday, 9 a.m. Thank you so much to our listeners, our watchers, our members of the chamber, and to our sponsors that sponsor each and every event that we have, which we just came off of Lobby Day on Tuesday, April 14th. And, of course, before we dive in, you guys, I'm going to give you the phone number, 773-591-1690. But before we get to our topic of the day, which is Lobby Day, I have to introduce to you who I am co-hosting with right here in the studio, a man who is not only a professional actor, but also a certified human rights consultant and sex trafficking consultant through the U.S. Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights. Lorenzo T. Hughes is in the building with little-known Black history facts as it relates to Black business. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me back on the Wake Up Show Chicago.
What is this, like round 12, 17,
I know, right?
29?
I know.
I lost track. But go ahead with that little-known history fact.
Okay, so we got another interesting and fun little-known Black history fact, and this one should hit close to home for all you veteran Chicagoans. Like I said, I always like to start with, saying never before in the pages of history has
Hold
a
on
nation.
1 second. Larry, I need you to mute your microphone and your speaker because you're coming through with double feed through. Uh-oh, that sounds... Yeah, I'm going to have to get you out.
Okay, well, Larry works on that. We're going to go ahead and jump right on
Yep.
into this
Keep
little known
going.
Black history fact. So, never before in the pages of history has a nationality of people been so consumed by the ways and customs of another culture of people as, again, I'm about to lay out for you today. So, in 1930, the doors of Benga State Bank did not open. Those who arrived on 35th Street in State that morning found the building closed, their savings frozen inside an institution that months earlier had approximately $1.5 million of deposits, a powerful symbol of Black power on Chicago's South Side. The man who built the institution, Jesse Benga, was under investigation. Within 3 years, he would be imprisoned. Chicago's Black elite spent 2 decades constructing a parallel financial system, banks, insurance companies, a national newspaper circulation, a hospital, and a real estate network. They had done this inside a city that systematically excluded them from every white-controlled institution. It was done at such a scale that outside observers coined what they built as the Black metropolis. This is the acceleration of the this all took place with the acceleration of the Great Migration around 1915, when Black Southerners were pulled north from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Louisiana, flooding Chicago for its industrial wages and of its meatpacking plants, steel mills, and rail yards. The vast majority of the population was compressed into a small corridor on the south side, later called Bronzeville, due to it being illegal for white property owners to sell or rent to black buyers or tenants anywhere outside of that corridor. It was the law embedded into contract terms of the west side, north side, and the south suburbs. And it was backed by Chicago's real estate board, creating a Bronzeville confinement. By forcing black residents of every income level into the same corridor, it created a captivity market of extraordinary density. Because of the exclusion from white society, we practiced and sold goods and services where our patients and our customers were, circulating our wealth amongst ourselves without being subjected to predatory or discriminatory practices. Mm-hmm. Now, in closing, there is, as we may not see it, there is a power in segregating ourselves from those who wish harm, by the children of those who wish harm upon us. So you will always carry out the agenda. I want to say this and make this pretty clear. You will always carry out the agenda of the ones you are submitted to. So that is our little known Black history fact. And here on the Wake Up Show, Chicago,
that you just woke a whole bunch of people up. And it sounds like segregation keeps getting thrown around, not just with what you said, but I've heard it over and over again, that word keeps resurfacing, almost as if we need to strengthen. Okay, I can't pull the plug until I have somewhere to plug back into. I mean, that's right. That's a given. Larry, I think we got you now.
We got Larry?
Yes, LaDonna, I think you have me.
All right.
I'm glad to be on. Hey, I'm not on live stream, but hey, I'm on the phone. So, hey, we pivoted, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's go. So when we started off this morning, I definitely made sure that we talked about recapping Lobby Day, which happened on Tuesday. We all piled into our own vehicles. Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm. And we rolled down to Springfield, Illinois. Tell us about that day and why it was so important to you for the chamber to have its members and those that are potential members go down to Springfield on that day.
Look, Donna, into the listening audience, the sole purpose by which the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce exists is that it's about commerce, but it's about specifically targeting African Americans who do more business, because you've heard the numbers on this show many of times about solopreneurs, about the lack of revenues in our community and the impact that it has throughout our community when we do have economic blood flow going to our community. Lobby Day is a place where it's like Bob used to ask Bonnie and Clyde, why do you rob banks? He said, because that's where the money's at, okay? Springfield is where the money is at. You have a $55 billion budget that they are cutting up and deciding where this money is going to be spent. And you have to, in order to get a portion of that money, you have to be engaged in the process and at least understand the process, like many of our listening audience understands. But we know that if we're not there, if we're not present, that we become an afterthought, if a thought at all. So Lobby Day is really built on going down and representing and make sure that our presence is felt and coming with an ask in terms of things that we want. And I can't tell people how important it is to go to Springfield and to make our voices heard, because there's not, throughout the whole year when they're doing what they do with their breaks and everything else they have, you don't see a lot of Black businesses coming down to Springfield collectively. You may have some Black businesses go down there themselves, but That's not very effective in politics.
Yeah.
When people know that you move a large number of people and they have an agenda and they can vote and they can contribute to you, then you have relevancy.
Yeah.
And what I think we miss perhaps is that how important this is to Black business collectively. And when you come down to Springfield and they see 100 Black business owners in Springfield, that picks up people's attention. That draws people to say, man, who are those people? What are they coming down here for? And the larger the numbers are, the more attention you get. So that's what Lobby Day is really all about, is putting yourself in a position to where you can carve out some of that $55 billion budget that they're going to cut up and decide who's going to get it. And if you're not there in the game, then you're out of sight, out of mind. And like I said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And so too often we're on the menu because we're really not at the table. So this is our day that we come down to Springfield to make sure our presence is felt, make sure our legislators see us, make sure that the heads of agencies understand what's important. And I would emphasize this year that we had our data scientists with us, Universal, who has an extensive background in data research. We had Dr. Michael Crawley, who's another AI data researcher. And obviously we have Donna Ray, who's another AI and data research person at the same time. And so we brought the numbers. Mm-hmm. We brought the fire to where people were not able to just kind of, step dance to the side, right or left. We really kind of asked people the real numbers because numbers don't lie. So right. I'm going to pause and throw that back to you and Lorenzo, because that kind of set things up. Why we're in Lobby Day is because there's $55 billion down in Springfield. And if we're not down there making our presence felt, guess what? We're going to get none of it.
I wonder why we can't just take them by the ankles and shake them up and down. But there is a way to do that. And when we showed up at 9 a.m., we scheduled at the statue. Because I'm telling people this is important because next year when we go, we're gonna do more. It's always more every year. But we all meet up at the statue where the Lincoln statue is, so that we can accommodate the number of people that have registered and come down to Springfield to join us. And then we downloaded our communication app, which allowed us to communicate in real time so that everyone knows what's going on at the exact moment that it's happening, which helped out very much so. And then we move on with our agendas. We had our gathering inside of the Rotunda building where we were able to give instruction of where everyone is going. Now, what that looked like, when we asked people who's going to DoIT, who's going to DCEO, who wants to go to the Illinois Department of Health, the Capital Development Board meeting, we had those people that raised their hands and we orchestrated them to go to those meetings. What I liked best this time that I had never experienced was us being on first the House and the House floor, and then, or should I say in the gallery, and then the Senate gallery. It was funny how we waited so long to get in there. We got in there because we had assigned seating for just our group in the House floor. And as soon as we sat down, what happened, Larry?
Well, it's always an honor when they put you in the speaker's gallery. And so we marched across, a significant number of us marched across. Everybody could see the entree of so many Black women and Black men marching across to get to the gallery, the speaker's gallery. And we sat there. And just as they were getting ready to acknowledge us, State Rep Will Davis was the person that was going to acknowledge us and talk a little bit about not just the chamber, but the BLC leadership also was there. And they were going to acknowledge both organizations on the House floor. And the Republicans called for a recess. A recess at the time. And it was granted, that's a normal courtesy of Democrats and Republicans. Some people say, well, Democrats have the power. They can deny the recess they want. But it's common courtesy when one side asks for a recess, they get a recess.
Yeah.
And they take a break, and it could be 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You don't know how long. And so we left because Senator Kaler and the House, where Senator Matty Hunter and the rest of the Senate is located, Senator Reed, Sharon Johnson out of Waukegan, a lot of our friends are in the Senate. So they called us to the Senate, and we left there, went to the Senate, and the Senate acknowledged us on the floor, gave a beautiful story about the chamber, who we are, what we did. And we were off and running because we had a full day of meetings, and we needed to get to our legislators individually about our ask at the same time, as well as the legislations that we are for and the legislations that we are against. So it was important for us to make sure that some of our members had a chance to experience that.
Absolutely.
And it was indeed an honor. But I want to go back, LaDonna, to the statue.
Mm-hmm.
And
by the way, you guys can see that picture on our Facebook page. If you go to the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, you'll be able to see some of the people that came along with us took that image of with us or that picture with us in the morning.
Yeah, and Lorenzo and LaDonna, when we got to the statue, and you're a marketing person, when you have the energy that when you have that many brothers and sisters standing in front of the Lincoln statue, it sends a very powerful message in terms of just the energy. And when people drive by and look by and see all these black people sitting in front of that statue, taking that picture, that sends a message. And I said, from a marketing side, could you imagine if people were driving by and they saw 500 of us at the Lincoln statue, the impact that would have? And that's why I think that we don't really understand the game, and we don't really appreciate what it takes in order to win and become relevant. Because when business have a problem with state agencies and something's not being done, you need to have a pit bull or someone that understands procurement that can challenge what's going on and force them, or at least make them consider to do the right thing instead of doing what they traditionally have done sometimes, is just disregard you. Even if you win, you lose. So it's so important, and we keep trying to get that across to our members and every black business person, even if you're not a member of the chamber. This is our day to show up and show out. You've got to understand how important that is.
Absolutely. I just want to acknowledge our callers. King Israel, I see you waiting. D, I see you holding. I'm just going to wrap a little bit around the lobby days so that people understand, even if you already understand what happened that particular day. It was, as we continued, the history that was given on that Senate floor while we were in the speaker's gallery, he actually, when I say he, tell me his name again. I wrote it down.
Senator Kaler.
Thank you. Senator Taylor. Kaler, rather. He actually started at our 1997 starting point of the chamber, and he worked his way forward. And that made me really proud because the numbers don't lie, including the year that this organization was started. This has been going on since 1997. I literally just got off of an interview with Congressman Danny Davis, with his start being so long ago, over 30 years. And now we go back to 1997. So when we had all of those businesses with us, it was a major, major breakthrough because even I got to talk personally to my legislators team about my concerns in my neighborhood or my community. And that was the first time that I had done that. And I want to give kudos to my co-hosts from during the week, Atiba and Larry, because Larry, you gave me the instruments necessary in this grooming of understanding how how politics work as when it comes to relationships. Politics is not just running for office. It's about holding those politicians and those seat holders accountable by establishing a strong relationship with them. So I want to thank you for that. And I know that's what you do for all of us as members of the chamber. So thank you for that. But as we moved on through the day, we spoke with DoIT, That was the talk about innovation and access. The Commission on Equity and Inclusion conversation with the BEP Council. Lorenzo was in that room.
Oh yeah.
How did it go?
With the CEI, it went very, very well. It was very educational for me. That's one of the benefits of being able to attend, lobby days. Sometimes you think you know what you don't know, and until you're in the room with a lot of these policymakers and hearing from them what's going on, behind the scenes. But yeah, it went very well, in my opinion. It went very, very well. Not having the relationship that Larry has, I still found myself kind of trying to navigate through some of the BS and trying to figure out what's good fruit and what's bad fruit. So, but yeah, it was very educational.
One thing that I noticed, Larry, when I spoke to Lorenzo in real time, actually, was that you and I have been in those meetings where the BEP Council has not had a quorum. And I think are we going on 12 months now?
Yes, 12 months.
Mm-hmm. And that the response that they were giving to the group that was in that particular room was the exact same response we got in the rooms we were in. And that response was, Lorenzo, when you said that they had mentioned, and they being the CEI Commission, they mentioned that black businesses were low in numbers in applying or acquiring or submitting for those bids. And there was something about, tell me.
I know they were saying that one of the issues that they were having, I know that was brought up in the meeting, it was the difficulty in filling out a lot of the contracts.
Yeah.
So they were saying that they were actively trying to address that issue. They were saying that, funding was also an issue of them being able to receive funding for certain things. I know they did mention that it was $1.6 billion had gone to the CEI, and $33 million of those dollars went to black businesses. So they say they're still trying to work on increasing that number.
Did they say black businesses or minority businesses?
Well, they said black businesses.
Okay, they were specific.
Yeah, that's why I wrote that down. Yeah. Because somebody said specifically
black businesses.
Yeah, how much of that money went to black businesses.
Right. So in our meeting, Larry, do you remember when Universal pointed out the aggregate numbers versus the non-aggregate numbers? If you look at what is in totality of the minority-owned businesses versus what specifically went to the black businesses.
Yeah. Well, LaDonna, I think what's really important for our listening audience to understand is that we come with an agenda. When we sit down with, like I say, DoIT, when we started off with DoIT, they had Albert and a number of people there from DoIT. And we had a full house of IT experts who wanted to, have a conversation with DoIT, because DoIT spends over $2 billion a year in IT. And, one of the things I was disappointed in, and I pointed it out in my conversation and in my comments, I said, well, I don't see Brian Regal here. I don't see him here in the meeting. And I conveyed to them that I'm disappointed that he's not here in the meeting. Now, there were some people who could make some decisions, but they're not the ultimate decision maker. As a rule of thumb, we try to level set. When we meet with people, we want to meet with the leaders of that particular agency, not with the other individuals who may have a role to play, but you want the leadership there front and center, so that you can talk directly with decision makers. And sometimes people decide, for whatever reason it be, they can't not make it. But I conveyed to them that I don't want to have another meeting without the director being in the meeting and making sure that he understood it. So I sent the message loud and clear that, we need the leadership in the meeting if we're going to meet with DoIT. So we're not going to have another meeting unless the leadership is there in the meeting. Because there's so many nuances when it comes to understanding what's working, what's not working. But the other thing we do very successfully, we also have the numbers. We have the real numbers that tell us how you're doing. And this is important to point out because sometimes the numbers can be deceiving if you're just listening to someone say, we did 27%.
Right.
In terms of participation. Well, 27% of the collective whole is pretty impressive, when you talk about it. But that's really not the real number. And I pointed out with the Illinois Department of Transportation, who have some challenges, but they got some people working towards making things better. But sometimes when you say, look, there's $2 billion that is subject to goal, which means that subject to goal means that you can put a goal on that. So $2 billion with the Department of Transportation. Then you say, okay, what's 20% of that? Well, 20% of that is $400 million. Okay, so $400 million is the goal. That's when you get 100% of participation, when you can say, I hit 100% of my goal. And I tell people, I say, so that's what you're trying, that's what you're aiming at. Mm-hmm. But when you take a look at the numbers, what they did is 27% of the goal of the 400 million, which means that if I was taking a test, I got 27 questions right out of the 100 questions. That's an F. And I find sometimes people are applauding those numbers because they don't understand those numbers. Mm-hmm. What the chamber does, we're fighting for you because we do understand the numbers. We understand that that's fluff. That's not real, and that's not what we're looking at. And then if you break that down, from the 27% of the 106 million, which is the 27% of the 400 million, if you break that down, and you'll understand that of that, African Americans might have gotten 11 million, while Hispanics got 25 million, Asians got 24 million, and white women got 44 million. So when you look at that, that's only about 11% of the 106 million. And if you take that and extrapolate that from the $2 billion, that's less than 0.5%.
Yep, 0.57%. Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost embarrassing. But I got a couple of callers, quite a few actually. Let's go ahead and start grabbing those. King Israel, you are live on WVON's Wake Up Show, Chicago. Not yet. How about now?
You hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thanks for taking my call, and I apologize for being late. I didn't know nothing about y'all lobby day, but I'm still down in Springfield, and I think I'm gonna start a lobby year because I'm gonna be down here all year. And, because I'm not understanding lobby day because I went with Larry Ivan almost 10 years ago. I don't know, with Mark Allen, he did, Bob did, Dale did. So I mean, Danny Pass got sick. So I'm just saying, it seems like these people playing 3-card Molly down here. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Somebody knew who it was. And I'm trying to see if we can work on something. You say you've been doing this since 97. 2027 is going to be your 30 years. I hope we can all come down here as one. I heard you say something about BLC leadership was here down there. I think I-57 was down there. Then I was down here so long, Vico came down here 2 days after y'all, and I guarantee you them people was running the same script on everybody. Mm-hmm. But so I'm just saying, what we gonna do, Larry? We need to get together, and just me saying,
yeah,
we need to come together as one band, one sound, because they're gonna pick us off and play us all day. Anytime they be. Has anything changed since the last time I went to lobby day with the Larry? It seemed like the same damn excuses.
Larry, what do you say to that, Larry?
No, I say that it's absolutely correct that they have got this system down pat in terms of doing little, and I think we've gotten better in some cases, but there's still plenty of work to be done. And I agree with Bob is that we need to collectively as a whole, because when we all come together, that's a lot of influence and a lot of power. Mm-hmm. When BCO, BLC, all of us come together and they see that energy, that's really what, everybody will stand to attention and respect that when you bring the collective whole to the table. That's hard to do sometimes, but that's something we ought to strive for. And I agree, Bob, that we've been in this song and dance, and we've gotten smarter in terms of what they say and how to neutralize what they say. But at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Are our numbers changing? If our numbers not changing, we're not being effective.
I agree. Well, we got a couple of more callers. All right, D, you're live on the Wake Up Show Chicago.
Good morning, LaDonna, and to the entire panel. Thank you for taking my call. This is so informative. I don't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body, but to know that I'm very data driven and I reference check and I do my research because I guess it comes naturally because I'm in the research field. And numbers are important, but numbers can be manipulated. And when you don't understand the breakdown of those numbers, they do tend to come across as, wow, that's really a good number for us to have. But when you know that those numbers entail compartments, and when you break them down, they're very minuscule when it comes to us. So I really do thank you guys and appreciate you breaking down those numbers, because it's important that we know we really don't have skin in the game. We really don't. So I thank you for that. And also, LaDonna, check your email. I've sent you 2 since we last talked on the air. So I was wanting you to know that I've sent you 2. I called in about the working poor. I'm in the research field, so check your email. And thanks so much for taking my call.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
All right. Mama D, LaDonna?
No, that was just
Mama
D.
D, right?
No, that was just D.
Okay.
No mama.
That was just D?
Yeah.
Okay, Hey, D, but thanks a lot for her comments, because the data does matter. And I can't emphasize, guys, how this system works. And I think we're smart enough now to know all the tricks of the trade. You can't trick us. You can't bamboozle us. And we got to make sure that we're holding people accountable. When I talk about the numbers is about what impacts politicians, what impacts the governor. Because, see, no one can win a statewide election without black people. Now, that's a fact. Now, if black people aren't sitting at the table and demanding something, if black businesses don't believe that they're important enough to make sure that they show up, then they're going to lose in this game, because out of sight is out of mind. Mm-hmm. And that you got to understand this process, and you got to get involved in this process. That's why we created our political PAC, because we know there's 2 things that people need in order to get elected. And when you're elected, you get a chance to be engaged in terms of how this money is spent, on the rules and regulations that govern this particular state. And when you get people there, but if our people don't show up and we don't participate on the front, then we simply don't get the chance, I think, and we're striving for that. So a lot of times I say to LaDonna and to Lorenzo and to everybody that the chamber is always fighting, whether it be the Department of Correction, whether it be CEI, whether it be Internal Revenue. We're always in the mix fighting for you, even when you don't see us fighting for you. Mm-hmm. We're breaking down those numbers. We're engaging leadership, and we're forcing leadership to take a new look, because they know that we understand, and so they can't run the same games that they've been running. And this is just essential to our own survival. Yeah. We got to do better than what we've done thus far.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to grab Terry real quick. Hey, Terry, real quick, how you doing? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Wake Up Show team and the great leader, Dr. Larry Ivory. Larry, I just want to applaud you for the great job that you continue to do to get us all together from a representation standpoint. We were strong down in Springfield. I was so proud of how many we had to show up, and standing there taking that photo on the Capitol, on the steps by the Capitol building, and LaDonna stopping and said, wait, there's more coming. There's more coming. It was such a wonderful experience. And I just want to thank you for always making sure we're represented and that we always get the right information and that we're having candid dialogue to make sure that our businesses, Black and brown businesses, are getting the tools, the resources, and the access that they need in order to grow and scale and be successful. So good morning, y'all. Keep doing the great work. And I am so proud to be a part of the work that you do. And one more thing I want to add, it made me really feel good for us to be recognized on the Senate floor and show up in the numbers in the way that we did to show our elected officials that we're here and that we are about the business of taking care of our businesses. So thank you guys so much.
That means a lot. Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, LaDonna.
Yes, sir.
One of the beautiful things, like Terry said, a lot of us was had a chance to experience that moment. But the beautiful thing was that we had two other meetings going on at the same time. So we had the rest of them representing here. So we were really in three places at one time, representing and had talented enough people to be able to lead a conversation, a meaningful conversation about Black participation and about what they were doing to improve Black participation. You know, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity was there. They are the economic arm for the state of Illinois. If you take a look at how much money and grant dollars have gotten into the Black people's hands, there's significant disparity. But no one's ever addressed that issue. And I could tell when we addressed the issue, the young lady said she didn't have those numbers. Well, again, nobody wants to know those numbers because if you know those numbers, it's really eye-opening. And I paused there with that.
Yeah, they always say the answer's the same, and it's the same in every room. We'll get back to you with the numbers, and they don't. But we do have somebody else holding, but before we get to them, I do want to point out one thing that I've heard year after year. When they have the numbers, but they don't. In this last meeting we had, it was mentioned, I believe it was DCEO, and you correct me, Larry, if I'm incorrect. But when the numbers were brought to the forefront, they asked where the numbers came from. And when we told them where the numbers came from, which is, well, their website, their reporting, they told us that was the first mistake. Why would we talk to one agency and they would give us misinformation about another agency? Can you explain that? Is that part of the game?
Well, I would say it could be a part of a game, and you got to take that with a grain of salt because, I served on the Procurement Policy Board and I served on the BEP Council for over 15 years. So I really know the numbers and where the numbers come from and how they derive those numbers. There are sometimes in the construction field, there could be a little bit inaccuracy. There could be a little bit of different way how the numbers move and how it's reflected. But when you take a look collectively, those numbers are good numbers across the board. Traditionally, these numbers are good because these numbers go to the governor. And this was out into the public. And you're not going to put numbers out in the public and have everybody scrutinize those numbers and find out that you've been deceiving the general population. So there may be, in that situation, LaDonna, that's a little bit more complicated in terms of it was a Capital Development Board, and that was Jesse Martinez who was making the comment. But there's a little bit different when they do the Capital Development Board. Their numbers, as I pointed out in the conversation, all of the agencies are failing us, and there are some doing better than others. I would dare say that the Capital Development Board has room for growth, but has a leader that I respect in terms of her role and the respect that she has even from her team, that they are doing some things that no other agency, I think, is doing when it comes to good faith effort and everything. And it's a little bit more in-depth conversation than what we have time to do. So we probably need to have a segment just on why Jesse said what he said and why that may be relative, that he wasn't misquoting, but that only applies maybe to their organization, not to the other and the information that existed.
Okay. All right. Cool. You're listening to the afternoon show right here on WVON 1690. Our phone number is 773-591-1690. Feel free to share the show on Facebook. It's also on YouTube. Facebook deletes it after 30 days, but you'll be able to go to YouTube and continue to watch it on demand. Let me go ahead and grab this caller. Hey, Wally Muhammad. Good morning. You're on the Wake Up Show Chicago.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, President Ivory, and all who are listening, and the other hosts here. Please forgive me,
Lorenzo.
brother. I'm just tuning in. Zoe, forgive me. Forgive me, Zoe. I was very honored to be with the chamber during lobby day. I learned a lot. I watched President Ivory. I watched you, LaDonna, and I watched other members engage, and it was very enlightening for me. I do want to say, though, that I'm not interested in having the opportunity to whine and complain. Black people, because we've been so beat up, so bruised, so maligned, we just be happy that somebody wants to hear us. My teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, has taught us that politics without economics is symbol without substance. So to engage with these entities and not engage in mass with those who claim to represent us, that's an area that we need to work on. Secondly, and this is my last point, LaDonna, we have to really organize. People need to understand the value of President Ivory and the chamber. Why? Because as he always says, he's fighting for you whether you know it or not. And just imagine, had we went into those rooms and those meetings instead of with the numbers that we had, which were great numbers,
They were.
but imagine 500 strong.
Being turned away because they didn't have room for us.
Now listen,
Yeah.
with 500 strong, I'm not interested in pointing out to you your injustices with respect to the numbers. We already know that. Stevie Wonder can see that. But with 500 strong who are qualified to work, we're not leaving here until we get contracts. I would like to see that attitude with respect to Lobby Day, God willing, next year. Thank you for the opportunity to make a comment. May God bless you all.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. I feel like I got to put a brother on it.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Absolutely. Well, you know, Wally, I'll just say this. Wally has been rolling with the chamber, and he's no nonsense. He's been, tutored by the great leader, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and he, in his wisdom, makes a lot of sense. We have to, again, keep pushing on, but we got to understand the game. And if we understand the game, we can play the game. But if we don't even understand the game, don't even get ourselves, it's like, let me in, coach, I can take the shot. We're not even on the bench to take the shot. We're not even in the game. So we got to continue to push this envelope forward. And I'm proud to represent Black business. But I do understand there's a lot more for us to get done, and we're not even coming close. We may have, of the 100%, we're probably getting 10% of what we deserve, and they got 90% that's sitting on the sideline. We got to demand more from the governor, from everybody when it comes to Black business. And Black business has to take time out to say, I'm important. And they can say that not by sitting at home. And I know you got a business to run. We get that. But one day out of the year to go down to Springfield to make sure that everyone understands Black business is a priority. When you don't show up and make us a priority, then the leadership and even the Black caucus doesn't really value because you have no presence.
I want to know, I got two questions for you before we close. How do you plan on keeping those agencies that gave us the answers or the bandages that they gave us and continue to give us at times? How do you plan on holding them accountable? How are we going to track the progress or lack thereof going forward?
Well, that's going to be pretty easy for us, LaDonna. We look at the numbers. We can have the conversation and we can talk about, because we understand the numbers, we know the only thing that can satisfy us is like if you go to the CEI Commission, where they had over 5,600 DEP certified firms, and now they have half of that approximately. And then they had 2,500 African Americans of that 5,600. Now they have 947. We're not satisfied until they fix their problem. And we're going to continue to challenge them on the problem. We ought to make sure that if the people on the DEP Council aren't showing up, they need to, the governor needs to let them go and find someone else. Hey, they can bring me back to the DEP Council. They can bring all kinds of people who got experience to the council, and we need to make sure they understand we want a seat at the table, because when you're at the table, you're not on the menu.
How about we push for that? How about we push to put you back on the BEP Council? Everyone by the sound of my voice can push for that. There needs to be something needs to happen.
Well, Donna, one of the great things that I tell you is that they know with me on the council, it holds everybody accountable. They don't want to see that happen.
But we do, and there's more of us than there are of them. I know I talked over you. I do apologize, but there's more of us than there are of them, and this needs to take place. It shouldn't be. I'm so tired of everyone referring to Cook County as Crook County. I'm so tired of being the poster child of lack. I'm tired of being, please give me a more of an ass whooping, please. I'm tired of that. So if we know what they don't want to do the right thing. I get it. I don't care. What I want to do is I want the right thing for my people. So if we're so busy naming a different chamber after a different chamber and one having a differentiator of one word and not coming together, we're really being laughed at, number one. Number two, if we know the people that's going to hold them accountable for all of us, since they want to make us a monolith, we are going to have to leverage that. Then we need to push to pull you back in that seat. And number three, how are we going to train people on how all of this works, Larry?
Well, I think it's an ongoing, and I would say this is why we're asking for the chamber to be supported economically, because, hats off to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. They got 22 employees, and they get funding from the state as a line item budget consistently, and they've done a good job to do that. So I'm not mad at them. They just been more effective than we have been. Our caucus members have to understand they got to support Black business in the Black Chamber of Commerce, us, the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. And they also need to support the BLC because they do great work in other organizations also. But business has to become a priority. You got to give us the money and the resources and the staff to be able to help our people, because we're suffering from the lack thereof of economic resources. And that's why the chamber has to continue to endeavor to create new things like remote works and things like that to give us a competitive advantage in the marketplace, or at least try to get an advantage in the marketplace. So, I think it's so important, LaDonna, and I really do appreciate your passion for being sick and tired, because I've been sick and tired for a long time. And we all should be sick and tired of the same old, same old. We contribute to this economy every day. When we get a paycheck, when we pay our taxes, we're contributing to this economy. But this economy, in some cases, may not be contributing back to us as much as we give to it. It is unequal and out of balance. But we have to do certain things, I believe, in terms of educating us, in terms of getting out of each other's way. When Black organizations, I'm proud of the DLC and their leadership that they have. I'm proud of the work that the Joseph Business Center is doing, BICO. All those organizations are doing great things. We got to come together and demand our seat at the table. And if we don't have a seat at the table, we got to, like they say at the Joseph Business School, what I heard them speak, we got to create our own table there.
All right. I love it. Lorenzo, I want to thank you for coming in.
Always.
Mark is calling right now. This better be good. Mark, what you got to say for us? You got 20 seconds.
Hey, so real quick, I just want to say that it kind of sparked my interest. When we talk about black businesses, is there any way, because I see that, when aldermen, when they had like certain businesses that actually come into the black community. However, sometimes they might get like, 2 or 3 years or 4 years, then next thing you know, this is just like a vacant lot that's there. That's number one. And number two, about the hop. Is there any way that when we talk about the Black Chamber of Commerce, because I don't think there's a lot of people that know about it, when we talk about, certain demographic, when we talk about certain age groups, so that way we could support you all more. So thank you very much for my comment.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. All right, look, let me put this out there real quick. ilbcc.org. Larry, give them the phone number.
309-740-4430.
Lorenzo, you were saying.
Always watch the replay. I'm gonna end it with this. Don't be upset with the results that you didn't get from the work that you didn't do, and always remember a candle never loses its flame by lighting another.
I love that. Wow, that's profound. Well, I tell you what, I want to thank Wind Creek, Chicagoland. I'm not even saying it right. Wind Creek, Chicago Southland. Thank you. I want to thank Wind Creek. Okay, I'm on my way there this weekend. My mother asked me about that spa treatment, so I'm definitely going to book that because of her. I want to thank everybody for listening, for participating, partaking, coming to Lobby Day. We got some other events coming up, but we need you to join as a member. If your business makes $2 million, $1 million, do not sign up for the $500 emerging business membership. Okay, look at the requirements, guys. You don't come in at that level because you don't get as much in support from the chamber. And no, it sounds ugly, but call me and I'll talk to you about it, okay? You can always email me at ladonna@wvon.com. We'll be here each and every Saturday. I'll see you on Monday. I think I mentioned everything. Did I leave anything out, Larry?
No, I think you covered it, LaDonna. Hey,
all right.
Let's rock and roll.
All right. See you guys Saturday on the Wake Up Show Chicago. Email us at info@ilbcc.org. That's it. LaDonna Ray signing off. Bye-bye for now.
Get ready to wake up to the pulse of progress as we amplify voices, break barriers, and illuminate the path towards a more inclusive tomorrow. Follow us across the socials at The Wake Up Show Chicago. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. It's The Wake Up Show every Saturday morning at 9, where change begins with every sunrise. Welcome to The Wake Up Show Chicago.
That's the end?
April brings spring flowers and a birthday celebration for the voice of Black Chicago. Happy birthday.